So I want to understand the role of Linux Foundation in this space now.
I think what we do is we help people with like interests find each other. And so when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Redis relicense is really going to impact us. I want to, are there others who are having the same problem or others who are talking about the same issue? And then others come to me and complain about the same thing. I can say, hey, you all should talk to each other. Let's get a conversation going. And so at one level, we are passive, but we are conveners of people of like minds. And so I think that's a key component of it. I think the second aspect is, I don't know what HashiCorp was thinking when they sent a legal cease and desist letter for copyright infringement, but we put a lot of structure and rigor around the legal frameworks for what we do. At the Linux Foundation, we take intellectual property very seriously. When I joined IBM, it was right when the SCO war kicked off between IBM and SCO. And, SCO was accusing IBM of infringement of, the same nonsensical proportions. Now that case is still, I think, ongoing in the legal court system, but, it's obviously changed quite a bit. At this point, the Linux Foundation, one of the things that we do, we invest a lot in legal side of things. So I'm an attorney. We have three other attorneys on our team in-house. We have probably 50 to 100 outside counsel we work with around the world. So when we set these things up, we do it in a legal framework that we know is pretty buttoned down. And we provide our projects with guidelines and best practices that we know will stand up to scrutiny. And I think that's another reason people are choosing us for these forks, is because they're not really sure how to do it. A lot of companies have never forked another company's code base. What are the things that we need to think about from a trademark perspective? What are the things we need to think about? When you see some of these early communities go out and say, hey, we're forking, a lot of times they use names for their project that are not helpful. And so we help them understand maybe there's a different name that you should be choosing. And so we work through them with that process. And it's not that we had a forking playbook, because we weren't forking a lot of projects either. The first fork I got involved in really was the IOJS fork of Node.js way back when. And that was an unfortunate situation. But I think a lot of these forking situations, everybody says this isn't the best way we could have gotten here. It just happens to be what we had to deal with. And I think we're in the same boat here. I don't think there's animosity towards the developers of Redis. There's not animosity towards the developers of Terraform. If we got all those developers together and say, hey, you're all under open source licenses again, you can collaborate, they'll be collaborating in 20 minutes. I think at the developer levels, there's a keen desire to collaborate on these things. And, it's a lot of the financial, the business, the other things that are getting in the way right now. And my hope is that they can all see through that. And maybe the Linux Foundation could be not just a convener of the fork. Maybe the reason they're coming to us is not just because we know the legal parameters about how to do this, but maybe they're coming to us because also down the road, maybe there's a path towards reconciliation and bring everybody together. Because if you look at what happened with Node.js and IOJS, they forked, it was very public, it was a very nasty type of situation. But over time, we were able to bring everybody back together. And there was actually, ironically, a movie that was just recently released by the OpenJS Foundation telling the story about how this all came together. And there was a lot of animosity, but now looking back on it years later, everybody was very positive about it. They understood, here's why we wanted to work together. And they were able to bring things back together, and that's a great thing.